My job is to keep my client calm. When I was younger, he always tried to put me off being a lawyer. Mostly we find a way to do the deal. It was very important to us that we were going to treat people right. 99 times out of 100 there's a solution, yeah. You can practice as a lawyer, but it takes 5-10 years to be good at it. A buyer is going to look at it and say, well, why on earth would I get into that? There's a desk, here's 3 files, go and work it out.
Today, we've got our first lawyer of the podcast, Jonathan Daniels of Quinta Law, one of the 5 partners. The first thing that we always ask, which I think I know the answer because I've realised it becomes quite a parental thing, this, is when did you last lose the plot?
When did I last lose the plot? There's a difficult completion going on at the moment where we are desperately trying to get something sold. The completion date was 7 or 8 days ago, and it is every day the client gets more wound up and the other lawyer gets less in contact, and it becomes more and more difficult to manage everyone's expectations. And as the lawyer who has no control over everything, you get very much caught in the middle.
Did you lose the plot over this, or was it just like annoying? Just for clarity for everyone listening, this is a deal that we are working on, and I've been driving Johnny a little bit mad on it.
Getting there, not lost the plot yet, getting there. No, there's nothing I can do, that's right.
Other than
my job is to keep my client calm.
Yeah, like when you said to me, stop emailing the other lawyer, which makes sense. So we touched on it just before we started recording, and I said don't say anything because I wanted to talk about it. So I have to come clean. I thought, take you out of the equation here for a second. I thought interviewing a lawyer, one of the hardest things to do as a podcast, because you might tell me otherwise. It's not the most exhilarating industry in the whole world, but you might tell me otherwise. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna test ChatGPT, see what it comes up with.
Here we go.
And I gave it a go. Like, some of it was good, some I refined, but I was just like, this is amazing. And even just like the way it was talking to me, the speed it came up with ideas, I thought, this is absolutely insane. But as we were about to talk about, are you incorporating it into what you do? And what's your views on where it's going?
I'm mixed. As a firm, we don't, as a policy, incorporate it, but individuals use it for bits and bobs as they go. I think it's great for some things, but I don't think it's very reliable. I'll give you some examples. So something came up on a search which I'd never seen before, some random piece of legislation, and I couldn't work it out. Spent 15 minutes trying to Google it and whatever else, couldn't get there. Typed it into ChatGPT and it told me the answer immediately, specified all the law, and I was like, brilliant. Then you can look up the law, you go back, make sure it's correct, and it was. It's great. It's great for summarising documents, you can put things into it, you can't rely on it.
Yeah.
But when things get complicated and you ask it a question, sometimes it doesn't give you the right answer, and it gives you an answer, and then it says, is it this? And it says, yes, it's that. And you go, are you sure? Because it goes, oh no, you're right, actually it's that. So you're like, oh, so you were wrong. And it was, oh yes, I was wrong. So you can't really rely on it for kind of complicated stuff. But I guess that's why we have lawyers and courts and judges and everything else. I think it's interesting. We go to one of my partners and I, we go to a technology conference every year, see what people are doing with AI, and it's very interesting. But I think at the moment, from the legal side of things, it seems to not be as advanced as people would have you believe it is.
Yeah, so is it almost a case of you're open to it when it's good enough?
100%.
You're just not sure if you can rely on it.
No, you can't rely on it for insurance. Like, you can't rely on it, because at the end of the day, if you ask it a question and the thing gets it wrong, that's our negligence, that's our insurance.
Yeah.
But I think it's definitely improving. We're integrating a new case management system in a couple of months, and it's supposed to have a very clever built-in AI thing, which is kind of, will go through. So it does a couple.
So that's like a workflow management.
Yeah,
tool.
But it's more than that. So you might say to it, because you have lots of documents going on, you might say, I need a contract where I last did something a bit out of the ordinary, and it'll go through your previous and find the right ones.
Wow.
And it also has, it's kind of apparently meant to be built in, so it has like a moderating aspect, so you can ask it a question, it will go off and try and find the answer, and then you say, are you sure? And it will apparently send it off to a team of lawyers who will look at it, tell you what you think, and then send it back to you.
Real lawyers?
Yes. Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, who work for the software provider, who verify.
So this is a very is it property law only, but like very property law
It's a
specific?
case management system, but I think it is quite property focused. So lots of it's like the process stuff for the resi side of things.
Yeah. Okay.
But it's interesting. It's interesting stuff. I'm very interested in what is happening, but the solutions at these trade shows seem to be like, oh look, I'll sell you. Look, I'll put in your document and it'll summarize it. Isn't that super clever? And everything's kind of in isolation. It's like you need 7 or 8 bits to do.
Yeah, I was about to say, 'cause it feels like the art is in not just one answer, but piecing it all together
I think that those who are going to do very well with it are going to the ones who are going to put it all together and sell you a product. But I don't think we're quite there for legal.
It feels mental to get to a point though where a AI bit of software can just do the whole legal pack. I don't know where it's going to get to.
It can and it can't. I think for certain process-driven areas of property, particularly maybe resi conveyancing on a house that's been there for 100 years, I think maybe you're going to get there. But for what we do, it's a lot more complicated. There's a lot of moving parts, a lot more parties involved. A lot of it is how you manage the people and stuff. So a computer's never going to be able to do that. And it might be able to draft a lease or whatever, but I think we're probably a way away from it being able to do a proper job.
Yeah, because also there's the negotiation part whereby you've got law, obviously, then you've got what someone wants and how do you make it work. And I don't know, can AI manage that?
Well, we'll see.
We'll see. And this is the thing, like, I was chatting to my brother about this, and he was like, 80% of jobs or whatever it is, they're going to be gone from AI. And I was just like, I don't know, I feel like it's slightly scaremongering, and we forever, as humans, just like enhanced our capabilities with tools that we've got. And yes, obviously there's jobs that have gone, but then jobs have just developed or increased. Great if you're using AI to speed up your process. That means you've probably got to do less work or less headache. That's fantastic.
But what's everyone going to do if the computers just replace everyone, right?
Yeah.
How does it work?
Yeah, I don't think we'll get. That's like humanity gone.
Maybe in our kids' lifetimes or their kids' lifetimes. I don't think we're going to see that.
Yeah, I'm still not convinced. Not convinced at all.
I do worry that because everyone talks about AI replacing lawyers and stuff, is something I'm aware of. But I kind of when I go to these conferences, I'm less worried when I leave. Okay. I think we're quite far away from it.
So on that note, in terms of being less worried when you leave, I wanted to sort of go back to how it all started for you.
Sure.
Obviously, or for me at least, being 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, myself and my friends weren't dreaming of becoming lawyers, footballers, astronauts, whatever. When did you start to think, oh, this is something I'm interested in, and why?
So it wasn't that strategic for me. My dad was a lawyer. When I was younger, he always tried to put me off being a lawyer.
Okay.
And now I understand why. I went to uni, did something unrelated, finished. I was quite lazy.
What did you study?
Business.
Okay.
At Birmingham, which was pretty pointless. Finished, and I didn't know what I wanted to do. I messed around for a year, and then I just couldn't work it out. So I just thought I'll go and do the conversion, get another qualification.
Yeah.
I then did.
Was that sort of worst case scenario? You've got
exactly. I thought it would open some doors and everything else, and then I did the practice course, and then I thought I'll see if I can find a training contract, which I did, and then you just kind of ended up with it. And actually, as time went by, I do enjoy it. You have to think on your feet. You have to find solutions to people's problems. You have to be creative, but also in an intellectual way. It allows you, especially doing transactional work, complex transactional work, it allows you to, not every deal's the same, so you don't kind of get bored. You have to think things through. So it does keep your mind kind of going.
Also, I guess, in terms of transactional law, as you predominantly do, generally speaking, you and the other side are working towards a common goal. Yes, you're obviously going to try and find things to protect your client or whatever, but you're trying to get a deal done. It's not like litigation or whatever.
I agree. And it's difficult because a lot of lawyers don't see it that way, but transactional work should be collaborative, and mostly it is, and most lawyers you deal with it is, but unfortunately sometimes it isn't, and those are particularly difficult deals.
So do you think that's a problem in the industry or for some lawyers where it's more about them as opposed to doing what's best by the client?
I don't think they're putting themselves before their client. I think they're doing both. I think that they are in their
like so principled as to being right
yes,
legally.
but it's a mix. I think they're doing what they believe is correct for their client, but I think they're of a personality or ego that requires them to win every exchange.
Yeah.
So sometimes you can say, as a lawyer, you would say, listen, I'm buying something. I just need 8 things, right? And a difficult lawyer will say, here's 3.5 of them, and here's 16 pages of why I'm a better lawyer than you, and you don't need those things. And you're like, well, it's very unhelpful because I only asked for a few things. I just need them so that I can, move on. And they're snowballs, and it's they've put more effort into that response than to just give me the things that I've asked for.
Yeah, completely.
It's frustrating.
I have that, by the way, with a bank solicitor at the moment, where it's like he's trying to show how good he is at legals. I'm just like, it's a nightmare. It's slowing down the process for the bank in terms of actually giving funds, which is how they earn their interest. And we're like, come on, like we've already been cracking on with the project, and we just want to.
So I think the other side of that is the junior lawyers are usually very risk averse, and they're all worried about getting sued and their own back within the firm and things like that. And I think as you progress, you get more comfortable about making kind of risk decisions, and you see, I know where to dig in now, and I know which points don't really make any difference, and there's no point wasting time.
Yeah. Also, I guess you know that if you don't like something, you don't agree with it, you'll say that to the client.
Correct.
Like we had that with a transaction where you very much said,
that's a very good example, in fact.
Yeah, with Willesden Lane, that we bought the bungalow, we got the planning for a house, and then we sold it off. But as we were buying it, I think it was something to do with the access to the site, and I think it was access related, and you just weren't quite happy enough.
What we ended up with, because you didn't have the land leading to it, and when you're developing, you never really want to develop with rights or with a lease. You always want the land to do so. And we ended up with a very complicated transfer that was like 25 pages long for really just access and that leads you to your plot. And it was so many conditions imposed on what you could and what you couldn't. And I was very concerned the whole way through that a buyer is going to look at it and say, well, why on earth would I get into that?
Yeah.
Because it
could cause problems.
It could cause problems. I could have
5,
issues.
10, 20 years.
Could have issues funding, could have selling, could have issues with the neighbours and everything else. And there was no need for that document to be as complicated as it was.
Yeah. But I mean, you actually might be right, because we sold it in the end to a developer who bought it, who perhaps took a view on that.
Correct.
They might still have that problem with the end user. We don't know.
Correct.
Well, I hope not. He's a lovely guy, and I'm sure it will be fine. But
things are usually fine. But as a lawyer, you have to constantly sit there and think, how could this go wrong? Mostly things are fine, and mostly people are nice people and will resolve things between themselves. But as a lawyer, you can't rely on that, because it's your job to make sure that your client isn't stuck.
Yeah.
That's it. And if I'd have said to you, it's totally fine, and then you'd had a problem, well, you'd have said to me, well, hang on a minute, well, you told me it was...
Yeah. So have you ever had this where, like, you've got far down the line and you've really had to let a client down and go, like, we can't do this, and you've had to sort of...
I think we have walked away from things before. Nothing comes to my mind, but mostly we find a way to do the deal.
Okay.
Mostly there's always
a solution.
There's 99 times out of 100 there's a solution. Yeah,
sure. I guess especially that late in the game, you'll probably see something blindingly obvious from the outset if it's a really big issue.
Correct. Everything we've walked away from has been very early on.
Yeah, definitely. And so coming back to it in terms of legal journey, so you've sort of fell into it a little bit in terms of the journey. As you sit here today, do you go, I love it, I really enjoy what I do, but what's your feeling now?
I think it's like anyone else, isn't it? I have good days and bad days. On the whole, I do enjoy it. I like the setup we have. I like the people I work with, and that is a huge aspect of any work. And we do it for ourselves. So we can do it how we want. We can wear what we want. We can turn up when we want and work the hours we want. But in reality, we work harder than if you were somewhere else. It's great. But do you love every day? Do you love every day of your job?
Oh no, definitely not.
So it's
I don't know about you, like so often I'll go through days where I'm like, do I even want to do this? It's so hard.
Totally.
So it's like everything feels up against me. And I actually thought about this literally yesterday, because sometimes I'll feel that for days, maybe weeks on end, where it's just like getting through shit. And then I've had this really exciting opportunity come up, and it's just like, oh, I've got that buzz, that excitement. And I think for me, it's just understanding and realising work will have its ebbs and flows, like life.
Yeah.
And it's not always just, this is great, it makes absolute sense.
Totally.
It's easy.
I like getting deals done. I like it because everyone gets what they want at the end of the deal. You've got your money, or you've got your building, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And I like, working, for example, like with you guys, like it's a relationship. We're kind of like a team. I mean, so it's all collaborative, and we're all kind of in it together. And with my big clients who we do work together on lots of projects, it's fun.
Yeah.
And I'm lucky that I like the people. I like most of my clients, so it's good.
Yeah. And look, not just saying it, obviously, the feeling is mutual. And for me, that's a big thing. And that's why with you, Martin, Nick, Liz, who I've largely dealt with, obviously Lauren now on the sales side, for me, it's like, it's not even a question. If we get something, I'm calling you. And for me, that's the fun. It's doing it. Yeah, but that's the great thing. It's doing it with good people.
Yeah.
They're good at their job. And I'm like, I want to give back business to people who are great, and it feels very nice.
It's nice when you get on with everyone, and there's
yeah. And in terms of what you were saying before, in terms of how you guys are now as Quinta, so I dealt with you guys at IWG before you guys spun out and set up Quinta, and at that time it was like your personalities didn't reflect what the business was.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, like I turned up to the office and it was like you all had your little, whatever you call them, little cubby boots, and everyone's in a suit, even if it was like a no tie. But it was very much lawyers. Now it feels like you guys are going, we are who we are inside and outside of work, and which just a continuation. Has that been like a conscious thing, or just like...
Yes, we wanted to very much do it our way, and that kind of has a lot of aspects. We, all of us, in fact, apart from Nick, was in a very different position, but we've always all kind of been employees and came up and put in the graft and everything else, and have moments where we feel we may not have been particularly well looked after or treated well or whatever. So it was very important to us that we were going to treat people right and differently and be nice to people.
What does that mean, treating people right? In what capacity?
As in, like, small, anything that's from like holiday to you need time off to do this, or you want to work from home, it's no problem, or you can wear what you want, or you can come and go as just treating people normally, and realizing that things come up and not being difficult about it, and paying people well, and just giving people, making them feel like they want to come to work, or at least not hate coming to work. So we talk about this, the partners, all the time. Like, we used to get what I used to call the Sunday afternoon dread, right? Where you're like, oh, I've got another week, I've got to get up, I've got to get in, and none of us have any of that anymore. I expect that's the case for our non-partners. I would hope so. Yeah. But that's something that comes with having your own business, which is amazing. But to it's the difference, but really between working and being in business, isn't it? When it's your business, you can treat it how you want. Yeah. But in reality, you work 10 times harder.
Yeah, completely. And don't matter you, I find a lot more stress.
Totally.
But then a lot more freedom.
It's different stress, because before you'd be like, oh, I've got I don't want to disappoint that one, or I've got the monthly figures to meet, or whatever it is. And now you're like, oh, I actually have people that depend on me. People need to got employees that need to pay their mortgages and eat and everything else, and that's kind of on us. So it's different type of stress. But you're right. Like, I can, you set your day up how you want. I start work early, and it's for me, being home for 6 for bath time is an absolute it's. And we were messaging last night, and you were upset that you hadn't made it back in time. Yeah, but it's every day. It's not a must. It's a so 5 years ago, 10 years ago, you would have been you'd have been out at 7 in the morning, back at 7 at night. You wouldn't see your kids, and I think it's sad. It's such a shame, because it is, or I find it's like such a special time in life, and to miss that, I almost think, like, for what? Like, what's the point of working hard? What are you getting back 100%. By doing it? I don't know. Just spending the time with your family is everything. Yeah. I don't. And I think it's better. The kids have a better relationship now. I think it's better now, isn't it? Because you're around, I'm around. It's to see them in the evening, stuff. It's great. 100%. Now, the other day, you sort of told me off. Yeah. For emailing the other lawyer. You said, please, in capitals, please stop emailing. It was the second time I said it. Yeah, and was it? Yeah.
She did it to me first. She called me, which you said was very naughty.
Yeah, but to be fair, she didn't know that you were the client. She thought you were
because I speak in such a
she
eloquent
thought you
way.
were. Oh yeah, must have been that.
Yeah.
She thought you were the agent, which was why she returned your call. She did apologise to me for that.
Okay, that's all right. But when you did it, and I saw the email, I was like, please stop emailing. It gave me a bit of a telling off vibe, a bit of a parental vibe, and it made me think for you. You've got clients you have to negotiate with and put them in line sometimes. Who's harder to deal with negotiation-wise? Clients or kids?
Definitely kids.
I won't bring wife in.
No, kids,
because
clients are mostly irrational. Mostly.
What, kids aren't?
No, they're not. But they're screaming, I want this, I want this. It takes a lot more energy to explain, why you can't have chocolate every day or, whatever it is. When your kids are, especially when they're, how old's your youngest?
10 months. I mean, I'm not talking to her.
And your eldest is 3.
He's 3.
So you must remember what it was like when they're 2.5, screaming the meltdowns. That you can't negotiate with that.
No, but even now the negotiation is mental. She knows how to win me over every time.
Girls do.
It's out, and I've got 2, which is like, I'm done for. This is why I keep our dog Cooper, who I'm happy to name, because no one's going to take him. Because just need a little bit of balance. They're unbelievable negotiators.
Yeah. Well, they just know how you just give them everything that they want. Yeah, clients mostly. You can explain things too calmly. They don't tend to lose their patience and start throwing it around on the floor.
So you're saying clients are easier to negotiate with?
I would say so. Than children, yes.
Okay.
You don't agree?
If you're I'm not doing it as much.
No, but if you're buying a site or whatever.
I actually find, I'm not taking the piss here, I reckon my kids are easier to negotiate with, or my eldest, because I'll explain something to her, we'll discuss it, she generally gets it, we move on.
But do we not come back to it then constantly?
A little bit. Like, her thing at the moment is she wants ice cream, like, all the time.
Shocker.
And I'm like, okay, but like, it's winter, it's harder to get it. Like, why do you want it? Fair enough, she can do what she wants. Like, that's the focus at the moment. But then if I go on the negotiation side with vendors, site owners, whoever it is, I find actually their expectations are based in irrationality. So actually,
that's really interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I reckon actually it's really difficult, and to explain to someone all the complexities that go into development now. So much to explain.
Because they don't care. They just think my building's worth X.
Yeah, they don't care about affordable housing policy. They don't care about what's happened to construction costs, what's happened to finance costs, and like it's not so much they don't care. How are they to know what's happening across all those landscapes at one time?
Yeah.
As you said, they just got told at one point, my building or my land is worth this, and they just
that's it,
and they believe it, which is it's a hard situation to navigate. The legal route, in terms of, as you said, so you did law school, then you did your conversion, then you did your training contract. Would you change the way that you did it, / do you think there's a different way or better way to do it going forward?
I loved law school. I did 2 years of law school, loved every second of it. It was better for me than university. I then didn't have... Because I was a little bit older, and I was kind of in London, and I just made some really good friends. And socially, it was great fun.
Yeah.
I didn't really work very hard at uni at all. I worked very hard at law school, and it kind of was the start of I say I kind of fell into it, but I kind of did find a lot of it interesting and stuff. I didn't have a particularly pleasant training, but it was the firm I went to was a very small firm. It was very much, there's a desk, here's 3 files, go and work it out. Rather than,
actually training
correct.
You, it was work out.
And that, for me, made me, I think, a better lawyer, because I had to I had to do it. But that isn't for everyone. And it's I guess it's like the schooling conversation, isn't it? Which I imagine you're kind of having at the moment. With, obviously you want your kids to be like super happy and like mollycoddled and protected and everything else. But also, the old school traditional, go to school. You're not supposed to love it. It makes you who you are.
Yeah.
I don't know which is best there. But I guess it's a similar. Yeah.
I'm worried we're going to make a soft generation, which is probably in some sense a good thing. They're going to be more in touch with themselves. But our generation was probably more used to just like getting through things.
Just getting through it.
But
that's
we're
right.
probably less used to it than the generation
Correct.
before us.
I agree, and that's the way it all goes.
Yeah.
Would I change? I don't. It has changed. I don't know too much about the route now. There's still study and practical, but I think that they've changed the weighting. I'm not entirely sure now. I haven't looked at it. I mean, I qualified for like 15 years.
Yeah, but essentially, so for you, actually, it's a good thing that, let's say, you didn't go straight in from school. Like, if anything, being a few years older, a bit more mature, actually allowed you to focus more.
Definitely.
At that point, for
Definitely.
you, for your experience.
Definitely.
Yeah.
If I'd have done it, I think spending that time doing something else and then taking the time out in between kind of made me look at it differently. But that was just my journey with it.
Yeah. It's interesting, yeah, because we had a conversation with an architect, and he was like, I would do it so differently, and he's like, I'm actually doing something about it. Like, they've set up a charity. How can they get architects getting experience straight from school and not having to go and do
because
that?
the architecture's years.
It's mental. You've got to do your part one, which is your
But it's like
your
eight
uni degree.
years or 6 years or something, isn't it?
It's nuts.
Yeah.
Whereas, I guess, from a legal perspective, I guess the question is, could you just go straight from school?
But it's like anything else, isn't it? Like you don't learn how to drive a car for years until after you pass your test, right?
Yeah.
You know, you can practice as a lawyer, but it takes 5-10 years to be good at it. So it's like, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
You need to build up the experience.
And I imagine, how much of being a good lawyer do you think is down to your personal development skills and understanding people?
I think a large part of it, particularly kind of winning work and bringing work in and whatever else, I've always found that if you're just a nice guy to people, people want to deal with you, people will share your name around, whatever.
Yeah.
I've won work just from being in a pub and talking to people, and so that aspect I think is important. I think yeah, that has definitely made me a better lawyer for sure.
Yeah.
I also think that when I was at my first job, I also did a load of litigation work, which I absolutely hated. No, I couldn't stand it.
Yeah.
It didn't sit well with me at all, and I hated it. But I feel like it gives you a broader approach to transactional work, because I can look at something now, and with that litigation experience, I can see
Which
where
always have a different lens.
yeah,
over
correct.
it.
So I can see where things might be going wrong before they, where things start to take a turn, and you can spot problems before they.
So is litigation almost like a mindset that you have to have?
So law basically breaks down into kind of contentious and non-contentious areas, right? Litigation is a contentious area of law, which is basically resolving disputes, suing people, anything from, you owe me 50 quid or, whatever, to, white collar crime, to property issues, possession, anything that involves a court and writing letters and having an argument. Litigation is all about finding a case or finding an argument in someone else's position, and it's not very nice, is it? And that's why I didn't like it.
Yeah.
You come to the end of a litigious matter, and even if you find your client's not happy, it's cost too much, taken too long, whatever it is, it's just not very nice.
Yeah.
And then I decided I didn't really want to do that, so I moved into transactional work.
Much more sensible.
Yeah.
And actually, our architect who referred his or fiance, who is a property litigator, he spoke to me about it afterwards, and he was like, I had to say to her, like, you're a nice client. She doesn't normally deal with like nice people. Like, that's not the world she deals in. I was thinking, that must be horrible being in that world and just dealing with issues and
it must
bad
be quite
people
soul
all the time.
destroying. It's not good for your
Yeah.
it's not good for it wouldn't be good for my mindset.
No, definitely not.
You want to avoid litigation at all costs. Sometimes there's no option, particularly with property, if buildings get squatted or tenants won't leave. You have to have a court order. There's nothing you can do about that. But in any other kind of financial dispute, really, you should try and work it out between yourselves.
100%. Quinta Law, the Magic Five, and I thought, kind of like the Power Rangers. So my question was, if you were a Power Ranger, which one would you be and why?
You said to me, do you know the Power Rangers?
Yeah.
And I was like, I remember it from like 25 years ago, but I don't know what their names are.
First of all, more than that.
Yeah, fine.
Second of all, I could name all of
I
them.
could know. I just remember
which one
Go Power Rangers. That's it. I don't know. Well,
We were having a discussion.
Which one would you be?
I was like, in an ideal world, I'd love to. You won't get it. I'd love to say I was White Power Ranger Tommy, but I know I'm not White Power Ranger Tommy because he's amazing.
This is
so it
this
was
is dangerously. This is Go on.
what dangerously, what sad,
Scary. Yeah.
What, I know all this. You'd be surprised how many people know. In fact, I sent an Instagram thing to my mate the other day about Kimberly, who was the Pink Ranger,
Right.
and it was like she was every guy's first crush in our generation. She was the dream. But I like to think I was Jason, who's the Red Ranger.
Okay.
But Charlie, for example. But I like to think I was Jason, who's the Red Ranger.
Okay.
But Charlie, for example, his middle name is named after the Black Power Ranger. True story.
It's my little fun fact.
Legit?
My brother, legit. My parents said, my brother wanted to name me. And my parents said, no, you're not naming. He was, 6 years old at the time. They had no idea what he was going to come up with. They're like, you know what, we'll give you his middle name. You can pick whatever middle
What is
name
it?
you want. Zach.
Okay. That's
So-
just a strong name.
I know who
Yeah.
you are. I know exactly who you are.
Okay. Well, I'll trust you to make.
You trust it.
Yeah.
You can check this out afterwards.
Go on.
Cameras. Billy, the Blue Ranger.
Okay.
Very considered, very intelligent, gets the job done. Doesn't get all the frills and all the rewards that Tommy and Jason got, but he's a good,
I'll take
dependable
that. Thank
Power
you.
Ranger.
I'll take that. Thank you very much. I enjoy that.
That honestly largely rounds it off.
Thanks for having me.
Some very good,
that was
concise
fun.
chat. Not as nerve-wracking as you.
No.
thought.
That was good. You were a very good host.
Thank you very much.
Pleasure.
Much appreciated.
Thank you for having me.